Nathan, are you still there? Maybe we've lost Nathan. Um,
I'm
maybe.
here. I couldn't reach the mute button.
Okay, so well,
Okay.
looks like it works. So I'll pass it over to you, Nathan.
Okay.
You
Yep.
can start your
Well, I
screen
need
share. That would be awesome.
cool. Need share here. Let's see here. I'm going to share that. I'm going to put this in presentation mode. Can you see the
Yep.
presentation mode? Okay. This is actually going to be a little bit more of a high level of what is Datasphere. Um, so, so we had discussed because Datasphere has been around for a little while. It was really shortly before everybody got hit with COVID. So, and back then was still Data Warehouse Cloud. So we had Data Warehouse Cloud, we had PC, we had SAC come into play. A lot of the cloud technologies coming in around the same time. So we were discussing, like you said a little bit ago, how can we look to promote some of the next generation of tools? We know SAP is starting to promote SAC as the new dashboarding tool for replacing dashboarding from Lumira and business objects. Now we're looking at Datasphere, which is supplementing data services and ELT style tools into the cloud environment in a similar manner. Excuse me. So it's basically a multi-cloud warehouse that provides reduced complexity, easier use, provides data and semantic business modeling, multi-source connectivity, virtualization, and some insights into analytics itself, as well as direct native connectivity now into SAC, as well as business objects, starting with 4.3 SP4, you'll actually see a native connector from business objects right into Datasphere. So that we no longer, there was a connector there for Data Warehouse Cloud. It's now been renamed for Datasphere, but it's a direct connect in. So we no longer have to do any kind of interpretation layers or anything like that. Some of the things it does provide, that access allows across the enterprise collaboration from a single environment, allows the consumption of data from SAP and non-SAP data. A lot of customers we know are using this to pull in S/4HANA data, bringing their systems up to date that way. They want to bring their data from S4 into SAC, or bring their data from S4 and consolidate their data. So they're using Datasphere, or looking to use Datasphere for those scenarios. But again, it can be used for non-SAP data as well. It could be then modeled, transformed, and manipulated as they need it. It's also managed in what we call spaces, which is an secure, organized section of space within Datasphere. It's the container where everything is situated, where it's secured, all the users are defined. It's basically like, you can almost think of it like a mini data warehouse container for your views, your tables, and your models, and everything are organized and structured for those users that have been utilizing the system. This users will log in, they'll see their spaces. They can also use the marketplace, which will give them access to information that they can see across their different spaces, as well as information that SAP they may have access to, SAP may have published for them. They can explore the data in there. They can integrate new information in there, explore the insights, and also share information with their peers that may also have access to that information. It's focused a lot on privacy as well, making sure that, yes, that data, it can be shared, but it's also secured. So that way, yes, you're consolidating your data. Yes, you're making sure everything's there, but it is also secured and locked down. So only the people who have access to the data can get to that data. Along with that, so that's the three main pillars of that. And like I said, the first one focused on is security, making sure it's secure, privacy, the data is extracted, consolidated, modeled, and secure. Then it becomes an end-to-end solution. We have, multi-type data sets, efficient platform, and then we can do some internal metrics off of that, as well as expose that out to, like I said, SAC, business objects, as well as out to other tools like Power BI and other analytics tools through OData connections. We've already talked about OData earlier in the session, this very similar way here through OData. This basically highlights some of those benefits. What we have here is just basic high-level architecture of what this looks like. Basic Datasphere will take any of your data sources. They could either remain on-premise, or we can consume them into the environment itself, because at its fundamental layer, Datasphere will runs on HANA, so we can consume the data within HANA, or just virtual point it back on-premise. So that could be, like I said, SAP or non-SAP data. Pull that data in, perform ETL function, ELT functionality on it, and then perform governance around that data, and then consume that data. Oh, sorry. And because of that, it's all organized in one location. In virtualized, leaving it on premise, so you don't actually have the cost of moving the data all the time when you don't need to. So there's no upfront moving, no cost to moving all the data in the cloud. We federate that data across. We could replicate single tables, replicate multiple tables. Different types of data flow in the system, just standard data flow, replication, or as I was saying, transformation flows, and integration with additional external services as well. Since this is all cloud native, we have Azure cloud tools, AWS cloud tools, even Google cloud tools as well. Even though we don't talk about that one as much, it's still utilized as well. And then our on-premise modeling tools like data services or other on-premise tools can also leverage it as well. The interface for it looks similar to, if anybody's ever used SAC or like some of the new 4.3 interface. Excuse me. It's a Fiori-driven interface, so it's very similar to what we've used. This home screen is very customizable. By default, basically shows you, here's everything you have access to. Here's some tips and tricks from SAP, things coming out, data builder. On the left-hand side, basically, here's your different spaces, your data, your business, your file explorer, repository explorer, stuff like that. Then we go in and we can actually see all of our content. We have an overview, almost like a file explorer, which is your repository explorer. All of our models, our views, replications, we have all of our flows we may have created, any kind of local tables or any kind of remote tables, which are the ones that I mentioned. They've stayed on premise. We just made the connection back to it. So we can pull that data on demand as we need it. Then any of the spaces that we have access to, So we can, that any of these types are in, and then of course we can filter by any of the specific types. The meat of everything that a developer is going to do is going to be in the data builder. This is where you'll go in and you actually build out your tables, build out your connections from your remote tables, your tables that are stored internally, your views, your models, your flows, everything gets done in here. In one example, that would be a table. This is a remote table, so it's just connecting back to an on-premise S/4HANA. And in this case, it's just the AUFK table, so standard S/4HANA AUFK table. And it's just pulling over, bringing everything over as is with the technical names and assigning the business names for those. Once you have your tables in place, either through building a flow or setting up remote tables, you can then build a model on top of it. This is where we get into our analytics model. If you've designed any level of a universe or UNV, UNX, or any kind of modeling tool before, this should look fairly familiar to you at some level. It's basically pulling that data together from those tables or those views, building your joins, building out the attributes that you want to expose. You could put in counts, you can put in filters, mappings, actually put in time dimensions as well. So time hierarchies, so you can go year, month, day down through. And then this is what gets exposed out for the most part to your SAC or business objects, and that would be consumed from that point. In that model, just like you can what Gregory and that was showing earlier in business objects, you can also go into a preview mode. So not only while you're modeling, you can go into preview mode and actually pull in the dimension, pull in the measures, pull in the dimensions, and actually create a small pivot table here just to view how the data looks, make sure your measures are calculating properly, make sure any filters in that are being applied as expected before the data gets shipped into your BI tool, so that way we're getting the data we expect. Similar to like you could do in IDT now as well. And then the business builder, which is another piece on top of this. Business builder is more for your business users. So you can grant not only your technical users access to Datasphere, but you can also grant your business users, even end users, access to Datasphere, to where your business users will have a reduced interface into the environment, almost like you can do an ad hoc report in your BI tools. You can give them Business Builder, which will allow them to access certain views and tables, not existing analytic models, because those are exposed and built by the admins to be exposed out to the tools, SAC or business objects I keep referring back to, but others as well. But this will be built off of your views and your tables, and you can take that and they can go in and rename fields, they can remove fields and add filters and that, but they can't add anything additional, they can't edit the SQL. So it's more of adding business context around the existing tables and views that are there. And when it's done, it builds an OLAP cube to the end of it, just like the data layer does. It builds an OLAP cube at the end that would expose out into business objects. This builds an OLAP cube that then you can then expose out to business objects, which will then consume that data layer. And it seems like my crashed.
It seems to be a little slow, Nathan. So
Sorry, there we go. Yeah, PowerPoint reset itself. Okay. So what I wanted to do real fast is I showed screenshots of everything. Want to ask if there was any questions up front, and I will pull up a quick demo of that
Nathan, we
environment.
do have a question from Nicole. I see partner solutions. Can you elaborate on this? Can Datasphere connect with non-SAP sources?
Yes, it can. It connect to multiple different data source types. You can pull in standard Office types or other standard databases, you know, SQL Server, Oracle, DB2. You can pull in Excel data, CSV text data, anything, any of those normal formats you can pull in data from.
And I see another question on the cost. What are the costs to be expected with Datasphere?
That is a hard one to answer. Your basic costs, your cloud, your storage costs, just like you see with SAC or you see with PCE, a lot of that is bringing the data in and storing it. Your egress costs coming out and your how much data are you pulling out versus pulling in. A lot of that is with your contracts with your cloud provider and your contracts for your storage. So I don't have the authority to give a direct answer on that, but we can work with you to see what your environment looks like and how that would actually work going up to a Datasphere environment, and what, you know, try to give what a cost estimate would look like working with you and SAP on that.
So yeah, you want to do a demo so we see your screen, Nathan?
Yeah, you can see it?
Yes.
Yeah, so a lot of this is similar to what I was showing before. So we can go in and see, I can go into like the space management itself, and I can go in and see like users. We have different users and stuff in the system and different information here for what an actual space is. So we can allocate this to users in what space they have in the system. We go into Data Builder. Let me go back to home first. And the Repository Explorer. And then I will pick a model. And I love doing live demos. There it goes. So here's the model that I pulled up before. So I can go into any of these, and so this is the source, and when I click on this, it shows highlights which ones of these it feeds. We have the dimensions on the right side, and this interface looks similar to what we see in SAC or in Business Objects 4.3 Webby. So we see our associated dimensions and our attributes for any of these sources. If I go to any of the targets here, we can see the attributes for any of these. I can, you know, if I want to add or remove an attribute from one of these, take one of these cubes that are going to be exposed out, change the data type for these, you know, the keys for the query, for the joins were associated there. If I want to go into the preview, like I had showed, I can go into preview mode. It'll generate for the 3 tables that are exposed. I'll now get the view to be able to model those out and show the data here. And there it goes. By default, it's, you know, it's just giving some of the default measures across the top. So if I say, let's bring in item cost, it's going to flip. So I've got all my measures here that are coming down through item cost. So you got our rows. Here's all of our rows here. Measures that I'm calculating from here, and the different dimensions that we have here. available objects, close, open and close the different toolbars. I can hide or show the different sections here. Each one of these has context on them. So I can sort them, I can filter, change the grid layout on them and stuff like that. Going through the data that way. If I go back to Data Builder itself, if I go into one of the flows, this is just a straight flow, replication flow to actually bring in a table. So we actually had a table in one of our source, just replicate that table up into the HANA environment. It just bring all the source for the MARA and MARM tables, bring those up, and now it's going to store it locally in HANA instead of having to retrieve it each time. So it's a simple source to target mapping for those columns. And then that we can run that replication, and now we have a copy stored as this target object, ZIMRM delta, which then we can reference as part of the modeling and continue that forward. Right. And similarly, I communicated this by folder. Folders are fairly new. They've made structure and organization much easier recently. So, and then I can go into the different views, dimensions views, text views. And as an admin, we could see, we could go straight down to the select statements, or if you need to, you can model the actual attributes and properties themselves. So we have options how we want to do manipulate the tables or the views as well. Business Builder, I said it's fairly straightforward. That's the one I was showing there. Basically, this one is one that's already been sent out. It's just got out of all the fields, we've got a couple here. We can add an additional field here for all the key fields that are available in the source. So the sort available, add this in, given an alias. And now we have those fields available. I'm going to remove that. I don't want to make final adjustments here because I'm sharing this with other people at the moment. So I don't want to get anybody else here upset with me. That's all. So, but this was, like I said, more of a high level to show some of the things that we can work with this. Space management. So for this is the space on this, what this space looks like, quotas on the space. So like an admin can go in and say who's doing what in it, what they're actually doing, the connections in the system, where if we're doing remote tables, those remote tables will connect back to these systems to be able to manage those systems, stuff like that. So,
okay.
That's what I have at the moment.
Awesome. Okay, let me check if we have another question or so, or that was no, so that was the question from Nicole. Is there anything else you want to add, Nathan, or we go to the next section?
I think that was it. If there are any other questions after this, redirect them my way. We're happy to set up a time to talk with anybody about it. We're working with a few clients now on some different projects with Datasphere. So we're happy to talk with anybody else about it any further.
Thank you very much, Nathan. So for the next session, we're going to talk about how to design a Webby. So this session is aimed for people who are just starting on BobJ and on Webby. So JF Caron, who's part of our team, who's a senior pre-sales and solutions consultant, will be presenting. So Jeff, I will pass it over to you if you can share your screen.